What's next for the Golden State Warriors? This is a team that everybody is going to be watching this offseason. Everybody's aware of the assets that they have at their disposal. They're aware of how great Steph Curry was this year. They've got Wiseman, they've got Wiggins, they've got the Minnesota pick, potentially. We'll see what happens there with the draft lottery. Everybody wants to know what's going to be happening next with this team. That's exactly what I'm going to go over. I'm going to talk about their year this year, review it, talk about how it sets them up moving forward, talk about their offseason, and then the long-term outlook of this roster when it comes to trades, the draft, as well as free agency and their payroll. But quickly, before we get started, I like to remind people, if you're new here, what's up? My name is Tucker. I upload every single day on this channel. It's the most consistent NBA content on YouTube. If that's what you're looking for, consider subscribing. If you like the videos, leave a like rating on them, and you can check me out at various socials and a Linktree link down in the description below. With all those things said, let's look back at the Warriors' year. So the season didn't start out fantastic for Golden State. The Klay Thompson injury was a brutal blow to this group. I think, myself and I think a lot of other people really thought that this was going to be like a potential top 6 seed team in the West with some upside here if Klay was healthy, if Steph was healthy. They have Wiseman, they have Wiggins, they have Draymond. There's some semblance of depth here. And then the Klay Thompson injury happens, and immediately their ceiling just decreases in a really significant way. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. Him and Steph have this incredible connection. Didn't play at all last year because of the ACL thing, and now the Achilles injury is just, it's brutal for them. They go out and they get Kelly Oubre, but of course that was not going to replace Klay Thompson. But what we got out of this season for Golden State was an incredible Steph Curry season. And I think that more than anything else informs what they're going to do here moving forward, because if he was not exactly Steph Curry still, if he was still good but not fantastic, that could potentially change some things where you start to look at this team differently. But the fact that MVP level Steph is still a thing and he does not show any signs of slowing down, assuming that he is healthy moving forward, to me informs the decision making in an incredible way here. It shows that if you make the correct moves and Klay comes back healthy and all these different ifs scenarios occur, this can still be a borderline contending level team just because of the brilliance of Steph Curry and some of the other pieces on the roster, as well as the opportunities they have to improve it. That is an incredible positive for them. It's unfortunate that the Klay injury went down the way that it did, but still, the Curry season was fantastic. The other part of this was James Wiseman. Quite frankly, their season turned around when he got hurt and he wasn't playing. They figured out their rotations a little bit better, and he's young. He's going to figure it out, but if you're looking for some signs that he is going to figure it out quickly, none of those appeared this year. He's clearly a talented player, especially offensively, has a great skill set, but he's lost defensively and just isn't ready to be a professional basketball player and play heavy minutes for a good team. And I think that was made clear, and that's fine. It's not the end of the world. He had a very odd transition from college to the NBA. College, he just worked out basically. And so, not that that wasn't the expectation that it was going to be like this for him in his rookie year, but if you were hoping for some kind of crazy rookie year from James Wiseman, that didn't happen, and that informs your decision making as well. And then the last part of this is the Draymond Green season, because he, as great as he can still be defensively, he's a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. He's not going to win the award, but still a very good defender and good passer as well. What does he have left offensively? Can he figure out a way to make an occasional jump shot to finish at the rim? Has age just gotten to him and the athleticism just isn't there anymore? Because again, that informs decision making. If you don't have Draymond anymore offensively and you can put all these great offensive players on the floor around him, but it doesn't really matter apart from his passing, it's a huge negative. Is that someone they potentially look at trying to move? All those different things, you kind of came into focus a bit more with how bad Draymond was offensively outside of passing this season. But now, of course, we need to take a look at their offseason, and I'm going to begin with the payroll for Golden State because it's a really interesting scenario. So you would assume they're going to sign Steph to an extension this offseason. He makes 40-something, and then they're going to sign him to an extension. He was incredible this year. There's no scenario in which you do anything other than give Steph Curry a max over however many years they can have those conversations. However, the Kelly Oubre thing is interesting because even though he wasn't great, he did get better as the year went along. He did have an injury, but there's really no way for them to retain him. They were paying $169 million in payroll. They're the highest payroll in the league this past season, went crazy into the luxury tax, and then even more so when they acquired Oubre. And they're already at 166 for this upcoming season without the contract of Kelly Oubre. There's just no way that he can be re-signed. They're basically at the hard cap. They're crazy into the luxury tax. Unless Kevon Looney declines his player option, they don't bring back Looney, and then they sign Kelly Oubre to like an $8 million deal, and then they're basically at the same payroll that they were at last year. Kelly Oubre is probably gone unless there's a sign and trade scenario, unless they shed salary because they trade Wiseman and Wiggins for something and then they can sign Oubre. There's some maneuvering here, but if you're looking specifically at the way that the roster is constructed right now, Kelly Oubre is probably gone. You signed Steph to the extension, and not that Kelly Oubre is some kind of fantastic player, but you certainly do lose some depth there, and it's something to consider. That's about it for payroll stuff, though. You've got Klay, you've got Wiseman, you've got Draymond, you've got Steph, you've got Wiggins. All these guys are signed for the next couple of seasons, assuming that you sign Curry to an extension, which again, I'd be shocked if they don't. You've got all those guys locked in, and then of course you can potentially move Wiggins or maybe even Draymond if you choose to. And now we have to get to the Wiggins and the Wiseman stuff, right? I have no idea what's going to happen with this Minnesota pick right now. Minnesota started playing better towards the end of the year. They decreased their odds of keeping their pick and increased the odds that Golden State is going to get a pick. Now, granted, if it's in the top 3, they don't get it, so there's no possibility they're going to get Cade Cunningham or anything here, but this is a good draft, and if they end up with 4, 5, or 6, that's a huge bonus to them, not only with their current team, but also the possibility of moving a player in a trade. But it gets weird really quickly if Golden State has plans to make a move this offseason or the following involving this Minnesota pick, because the value of just the pick itself is almost more valuable than the player that you would end up selecting, because there's no guarantee that the Warriors are evaluating these players in the same way that the team that they would potentially trade that player to. Here's what I mean. They have Wiseman right now. He's certainly an asset. You can trade Wiggins to make the salary stuff work, but right now you have a top 3 protected Minnesota pick for this year, then unprotected next year if it rolls over. And that's very exciting to a team, and they can pick whoever they want to, assuming they keep the pick for this year, or they can get it next year. But if, for example, they end up at 4, 5, or 6 and they draft Jalen Green or Jalen Suggs, whatever the case may be, and then you have Jalen Suggs, James Wiseman, and Andrew Wiggins in exchange for whoever, maybe that team doesn't like Jalen Suggs. Maybe that team doesn't think that he fits. Maybe he was not someone that they really liked in the draft, and then the value of that asset decreases significantly to that specific team, and there's only a handful of teams you would really be making a move for here. So that's a really interesting timeline thing. The problem with them trying to go out and make a move right now, which honestly is probably what I would advocate for, is trying to make a move before the draft and going to get somebody, I don't even know who that would be, is just that. I don't know who the move is, because Beal seems weirdly happy in Washington. I still find it unlikely, unless he signs an extension this offseason, that he is going to stay this offseason or before the next trade deadline. But let's just say that he does. Who else are you going to get? Is there a Kawhi sign and trade possibility here? Maybe. I don't know. And so that's the weird part about Golden State, is it's nice to have the assets and it's nice to have the ability to go out and get somebody, but if there's nobody to go out and get, it doesn't really work. It doesn't seem like the Cat thing is quite ready to blow up yet. And so honestly, if you're a Warriors fan, you're kind of hoping that Minnesota keeps this pick, because then you get the unprotected Minnesota pick in 2022 that looks really nice and shiny on paper, rather than like who you would actually select in this class, assuming you end up with like the 4th, 5th, 6th, or potentially even 7th pick. So things get very, very weird very, very quickly as it relates to the Warriors trading for somebody. But you could also argue, hey, yeah, we'll take another guard. We'll take a wing, probably ideally, or a shooting 4, and add them to the roster. Then you got Wiseman, whoever you pick in this class, Draymond, Wiggins, Klay, Steph. If all those guys are healthy, we're really good next year, and we have the opportunity and the flexibility to make a move down the road if we so choose. So at the end of the day, they have a ton of options, and it's very exciting there, but there's going to, the timing of all this and the decisions that the Golden State makes are going to be really, really critical here. Here's what I would say. Curry proved this year that if you make the correct moves, there is a potential championship window open here for Golden State. But if that move doesn't present itself, it's obviously incredibly difficult to make the correct one. So does Golden State choose to force it? Do they try to go and pry somebody from a situation that it doesn't appear as though they're really unhappy, but they try and make it work anyway, aka the Paul George thing? Or do they wait it out? Do they either not end up with this pick this year because the Timberwolves get good lottery luck, or they end up picking someone and they just run it back with the young guys and they figure it out and they hope Klay is healthy? I don't know. There's a ton of questions there, but that's basically how it breaks down. In terms of the outlook moving forward for Golden State, regardless of what they do this offseason, it is certainly bright. Best case scenario, if they trade for a star, Klay comes back healthy, Draymond figures it out offensively, and they're really, really good next year. And they've got Draymond, Klay, Steph, whoever they trade for, and they figure out who the 5th guy is because Wiggins, Wiseman, and the pick are gone. Other scenarios there in the best case category include the fact that they just end up with Minnesota's pick next year. Maybe Minnesota isn't that great next year. You have that asset out there. You can trade that, Wiseman and whatever. Maybe you do end up with Beal eventually, all those different things. Worst case, they hold on to the pick, they get the 5th pick in this draft, they draft somebody, and their timelines don't quite match up. And they've got these younger guys, but then they've got veterans that are really good, and they can't get all that to mesh. It takes a while for Klay to come back fully healthy. He doesn't come back until like the All-Star break next year. Steph is incredible once again, but you start to wonder at what point he's going to begin to break down. Draymond still can't figure it out offensively, and then there's a lot of pressure in that 2022 offseason to make a move, because that might be the last time that all those guys are fully healthy, ready to go, and still in their primes. And just getting the timelines to match up is really, really odd. But worst case, Golden State's in a really fantastic spot. The only problem they have really right now is the fact that their payroll is so high, but that doesn't really seem to be an issue for their owners. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone as far into the luxury tax as they did this year, just to not even make the playoffs and just make the play-in game, right? So at the end of the day, Golden State's in a great spot. I'm excited to see what they do moving forward. It's going to be about which timeline they choose. Do they want to just transition into a new area of Warriors basketball without pushing for a championship in this current era with Steph still here? Or do they want to push for that championship, kind of force a trade that doesn't really seem like it's out there right now? But you never know. Stuff like this happens all the time where we don't really think that there's anybody to trade for, and then James Harden wants out of Houston, and Russell Westbrook wants out of Washington, and Russell Westbrook wants out of Houston, John Wall wants out of Washington. All those different crazy things can happen very, very quickly. So we'll keep an eye on Golden State moving forward. But that is, in my opinion, what is next for the Golden State Warriors. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, you can check out more videos from me in the boxes on screen. You can also leave a like rating on the video as well if you enjoy them, and you can check me out at various socials and a Linktree link down in the description below. As I said in the beginning, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.